Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account and it says, husband 37 male, moved in his siblings without even letting me, 32 female, know. All of our future plans have basically been thrown away. And I'm heartbroken. Husband and I have been married for 5 years. For some context, his siblings, twins, male and female, early 20s, are underdeveloped physically and mentally. They can take care of themselves as far as wiping themselves, going to the bathroom and feeding themselves, but they are rather weak, having brittle and fragile bones, and combined with their mental maturity, which is similar to that of about a 12 to 13 year old, they have to be monitored, cooked for, assisted with going upstairs, moving around for long distances, etc. They can't take care of themselves financially because of all of this. All of this I knew while we were dating, but they were being cared for by a team of nurses and caregivers at the time, not in our home. But about a few months ago, the team was all fired. My husband told me that he was planning to move them in, and about a week or so later, they were moved in, along with a new team. I had no say or even much of a heads up about any of it. The house suddenly became full of staff. Someone was always there. Our privacy was basically snatched away. My husband already has a busy schedule. He's a doctor, on call a lot, and now I feel like we barely have time to ourselves. I'm competing with everything and everyone. We're about to start a family now that we're all settled. Things were good between us, but now everything has been thrown into chaos, and I don't know how to feel. I feel almost a sense of grief. I feel like I have no control of anything. I feel like he just threw away our future and plan, as cruel as that may sound. We had a talk and everything was pointing towards a divorce, but I just feel so bitter. I feel like he's just giving up. He feels like I'm not being thoughtful enough. I love him more than anything and want to salvage our marriage if I can, before just making a snap decision. Any advice is appreciated. Edit. Also I should say his parents are estranged. I've never met them, not even before we married. He cut them off a while ago for a very understandable reason. Ernest says to this, from your comments below there sounds like a bit of missing info. Like his siblings were likely being abused in some manner in the previous situation and he only just found out. If that's the case, it is still not okay to override your input, but he's likely dealing with both guilt and fear. I'd say you both need counseling to see if there is a setup he'd be comfortable with moving forward that you can also live with. Otherwise, he's likely going to decide that their care homes comes before your marriage, and you will have to decide if you want to stay in it. Catalina says, you said he had a very good reason for firing the last staff. Probably he now feels he needs oversight before he can trust new staff. After some monitoring, will he be comfortable leaving his siblings with staff outside of your home like before? Can he hide cameras like he is doing now in your home? You need to know how permanent this situation is. As you said, his parents were not trustworthy and are not in the picture. His siblings are his responsibility. Seems like legally, ethically, and in his heart. If the actions of the old staff have made it impossible for him to let his siblings live separately, then you need to decide what you can live with. You have said his siblings are mentally children and physically very fragile. Obviously they can't care for themselves. I don't think it's fair to say your husband willfully changed your situation. He never wanted his siblings abused and his trust violated. He clearly didn't plan that. He's doing the best he can in a bad situation. There are professional guardians. That is something you can look into if you want your situation to change. Is there a safe institution they can be in? Is there a trustworthy guardian who can oversee their care and caregivers? Also, your husband is responsible for his siblings, but you are not. You can look into dwellings that are adjacent but not shared, like a duplex or a mother-in-law suite, where your husband can be close in monitoring, but you can have a home and potentially children in your own space. Or you can leave him if his expectation is to live within the same home with his siblings and their caretakers forevermore. Good luck. Crystal Queen says divorce is the only option. He made a life-changing decision without even discussing it with you. What happens when he fires the staff and expects you to take care of them full-time? Don't have kids with him and get out whilst you can. Mug Susie says, I'm so sorry about your situation. It is not acceptable and your husband is taking zero responsibility for his completely inappropriate decision to proceed without getting your approval. Honestly, I just can't think of any way that you get past this. Maybe try marriage counseling? I suppose it could be possible to arrange your lives so that you go away for a weekend a couple of times per month and make your relationship a priority. But please, no children for at least 5 years. Even if this improves temporarily, you need to make sure that he has made a fundamental and permanent change before you start a family. And another commenter says your husband was wrong to not keep you informed about a sibling situation. But I ask you, if they were your family, aside from communicating better with your husband, what would you have done differently? Would you want your husband to abandon you because you're in crisis mode and brought your siblings to live under your roof? Sometimes situations like these constitute the worst part of for better or worse. In the traditional wedding vows, yes, your plans are temporarily kaput, but your husband needs you at this time to help him with a crisis until he can come up with a better plan. This is a time to be loving and compassionate in support of your husband. Oh, that's an absolutely tough situation. I do get some of the other comments coming from the other side saying about, your husband being in a difficult situation, but he still made that decision unilaterally, said that he was planning to do it and then just did it a week later. The main issue for me isn't really about taking care of the siblings being right or wrong. It's just the fact that he made this unilateral decision that's going to affect every single part of their life without her input. But OP did come in with her first update and said, after taking everyone's thoughts into consideration and taking some time myself to think, I sat down with my husband when he was off call and told him I wanted to talk about everything that's happened. He told me that he wanted to talk too, and we had a raw heart-to-heart about everything. We discussed the main issue that I mentioned in my previous post. I told him that I felt hurt about him not consulting or even telling me about what was going on, and he sincerely apologized for it, telling me that he wasn't thinking about much else other than their situation, which I understood, even if it still made me feel a certain way. But then he told me that he needed to be honest to me about something, and that he understood that it may affect things between us, but that the whole situation with his siblings and their previous care team made him realize it even more. He became very blunt. He told me that while he loves me more than anything, he loves them more, and that he has to put them first from now on, above anything. He told me that he couldn't handle anything else happening, and that everything he's done, the cameras, moving in staff, was necessary. And while this of course hurt for me to hear, even though I understand, like I have for this whole situation, I realized some things. He might have acted selfishly at first, even if it was understandable, but my reaction could have been better, I admit. He was breaking down right in front of me, reliving trauma that reminded him of his childhood, and I was too busy in my own feelings to offer any true support. I feel awful about that. I didn't mention much of it in the previous post, but his parents were truly awful people. The neglect caused the underdeveloped regressed state of the twins in the first place, and if he hadn't taken care of them while they were small, they possibly wouldn't have survived. They're very attached to him, almost like a small child with their parent. As painful as it was, I accepted that I couldn't come before their relationship. I did know about his legal obligation before we became married, so I obviously knew they were important to him. I have no bitter feelings towards the two. They're innocent in this situation and very precious in their ways in general. As far as our future plans, we agreed that we'd wait a few years, 3 at the max, before truly deciding if we wanted to have a child or not. We were on the fence, but I was falling in love with the idea of motherhood, perhaps more than I realized. He was also very receptive about having designated areas that were staff only and me only. It's already been implemented a bit, with still more things out in place, and I'm feeling a lot better about that already. And lastly, I realized that this may seem like the fool's option to some, to the many who jump straight to divorce, but now I know all the facts and where he stands. So anything that may happen from now on will be completely on me. I feel hopeful in my decision, and I'm not wanting to give up. For him and the marriage that I still value so much, I'm willing to give it a try and try to adjust to our new normal. Thank you to everyone who helped me. Final edit. Thank you everyone. I'm logging out of this account now. I appreciate some of the advice more than others, but everyone's opinions were still read. Overall, I'm content with my decision. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future might bring for us. Whether we have children or not, with the resources that we have, I'm sure we will work things out. We both know where the other stands and what we've gotten into. That conversation we will revisit when we make our decision. We love each other, whether some choose to believe it or not. Thanks again. So it was 2 years after this one that OP came in with their update and said, I was always a bit of a fence sitter when it came to having children. Throughout my life, I went through phases of knowing for sure that I wanted children, to suddenly being uncertain, and suddenly not wanting to become a mother at all. My life, honestly, was pretty uneventful. I saw the women in my community having children and began to soon fall in love with the prospect of motherhood, as it seemed exciting and appeared to give women, who chose to become mothers, a purpose. Everyone else seemed to be sure, but I couldn't understand why I wasn't. I married my husband, 39 now, 7 years ago. He's a successful, well-off doctor with a deep connection to his siblings. More on that later. Marrying him was the happiest day of my life. I'm absolutely in love with him. His job keeps him busy, but also because of his job I have the privilege to stay at home and pursue whatever I want. I did some small online work, but ultimately I was a stay-at-home wife, which I enjoy. After marriage, we still waited a bit before deciding to have children. He has a legal and moral responsibility to his siblings, twins, male and female, who are now in their mid-20s. But I wasn't concerned about this when it came to us possibly having a child. Seeing how he is with them, his love and sacrifice, along with his dedication to his responsibilities and to me, was confirmation that he was already a great, selfless father. As I mentioned earlier, he is their legal guardian and has been since he was 18 years old. But he has essentially been their caretaker since birth, due to extreme neglect and abuse towards them from the ones who birthed him. If it wasn't for him, quite literally, they would not have survived. He is their father in everything but the biological sense, and they are quite literally children due to being made disabled from the abuse, both physically, small, thin bodies, and very fragile bones due to stunted growth, and mentally, brain development-wise, they're around 12 to 13 mentally. Very intelligent as kids that age are, but not able to take care of themselves and still need supervision to be cooked for and help with movement like going upstairs and walking or standing long distances. About 3 years ago, we were coming to a decision on children. I was getting older, 32, now almost 35, and knew that if I wanted children, I had to make a quick decision. I thought about it. Honestly, I went back and forth a little, but shortly after a mutual friend had a baby, I fell in love with motherhood again. But before we could plan, a drastic change occurred involving his siblings. Due to the criminal mistreatment by the care team that had been caring for them, my husband abruptly moved them into the home without so much as talking to me. It was a thoughtless mistake on his part that I ultimately came to understand, but I frantically came to post about it on this site nearly 2 years ago. On another subreddit, in a panic about suddenly our lives being thrown away. Was in a more emotional state of mind back then, with all the clock running out thoughts in my head of what I thought I wanted. I realize now it was not the best move, considering people couldn't fully grasp the full nature of our relationship. His relationship with the twins, or the complexity that couldn't be fully described without telling intimate parts of their backstory. I was called a lot of hateful names. Idiot, stupid, and I was told I had no self-respect and would be miserable and bitter for making a choice for myself that didn't involve hasty divorce and took a more compassionate route. That they knew for certain that things wouldn't work out for us and couldn't wait to read again about how they were right in a few years. My husband was accused of being a manipulator, a monster, and selfish. I honestly wasn't expecting such harsh, cruel, and ableist comments, even towards the twins. He even admitted that not informing me was wrong, apologized, accommodating me in my established boundaries involving the twin staff and designated areas of the house I wanted to keep private. I explained his reasoning without being dismissive. He went into protective/fixer mode. It was an emergency, trauma flashbacks, etc. It was not malicious, even though it was inherently disrespectful, and more importantly, it was not a pattern of behavior common of him at all. But apparently that wasn't enough for the people on the post. Especially the fact that we agreed to wait on the topic of children for 2 to 3 years to see if I could adjust to this new normal, or whether it would be best for us to split ways, because he was going to prioritize his siblings if it came to it. This took a bit of a toll on our marriage, but neither of us wanted to give up on each other so easily. On the other hand, I hadn't been completely honest. I left out important information and took a naive approach to things he had told me regarding the twins' role in his life. He had told me before marriage that he was their legal guardian and how important they were to him, and that he would always be their father. I knew this, but took his word as more surface level than seriously reflecting on what they meant. He also told me that the plan wasn't to leave them out of the home for long. The care team at the separate house was only temporary due to a certain circumstance. But again, I didn't properly reflect on what this could mean for the future. After the incident had occurred and the big change had happened, we had a raw, open talk, and he bluntly told me that they were his top priority. And considering he is like their father, I accepted that fact. It was a bit shocking at first until my counselor, and a few other people from the post, told me I essentially got into a marriage with a man already with children, and had seemingly ignored the fact. Something changed in me. I saw the love differently and could understand why they were first. A few months passed, then a year. Since then, we've been to marriage counseling, though working around his schedule is crazy. A few vacations, some with just us and some with the siblings, and are in a much better place. We have evenings out and time to ourselves when it allows. The adjustment at first was difficult, but it was not as life-ending as I had led to believe. The desire for a child, for one reason or another, naturally started to fade. Even though the twins have full-time around-the-clock care from the in-home nursing team, I started gradually spending time with them, sitting with them at breakfast, going out into the garden with them, doing puzzles with them, listening to them as they talk about me and their favorite things, and how much they love their father. Something happened that I never thought would. I started to fall in love with them in a maternal sense. I'm ashamed to say it, but I was skeptical that it was possible to grow such an attachment to older children that weren't your own, or to anyone that wasn't your spouse or actual children. I used to feel like I had no purpose. Even after marrying my husband, I couldn't decide what I wanted. Maybe that was why I waited so long into my 30s. My counselor also put an interesting thought in my head. Do you really want children, or are you looking for a purpose? As I said, my life used to be pretty uneventful, but now I'm so passionate about things such as disability awareness, child abuse awareness, and I've gotten involved with so many foundations. With our wealth, I feel like I can actually do something. I've wanted to be a children's book author. The twins really enjoy children's books more so than chapter books. My husband and I have grown closer through our love for them. I may not be their mother, but I really do care for them. I don't have many conflicting thoughts about children anymore. I don't think I want any at all, and the feeling of indifference has been there consistently for a while now. I know some people will probably still think I'm an idiot or that I was manipulated to now caring for them, even though they have staff, or that this was his plan all along, or something. He never asked me to and still doesn't fully trust the staff, hence why we still have cameras in their designated areas where they frequent with the twins. But I am truly happy with my life now and see a bright future for us all. I never thought I would log back into this account. I forgot about it for a while. This is not a gloating or gotcha thing for me. I understand that some people were generally trying to help, give tough love, or trying to look out for me. I was inspired to share this on this site for the last time to give my own perspective. Motherhood and love is something I was so uppity about, but it comes in many forms. I saw it further through a mutual friend's adoption of 2 older children, 12 and 7. As a woman, whether you have kids or not, if there's no sense of purpose within you, it won't bring happiness. For some women, the kids are the purpose and it makes them happy. For other women, being single and enjoying their life and their hobbies and relationships is their purpose. I didn't believe having kids would have made me happy or brought me a purpose, like I used to think. The people that everyone told me would ruin me actually opened up to my purpose. All without having to go through a risky pregnancy, possible postpartum depression and the stress. I just want to be with my husband, the twins, and continue to have a nice life. Thank you for anyone who read to the end. This is more of a vent and hopefully can be uplifting to women out there who might be struggling with the thoughts of motherhood, kids, marriage, purpose, or self-confidence. Don't ever allow other assertions to shape your life. I'm so glad I didn't fall into the reality that everyone had tried to push me into. And the comments below this one were an interesting split. There was people genuinely celebrating OP and their growth and their self-discovery and their purpose, and questioning if she actually wanted children or just felt pressure in doing so. But then there was also the other side who were skeptical, to put it nicely, and kept saying, she's pretty much in denial that she's been manipulated, and, has she really found a purpose? They were saying that it sounded more like she was convincing herself through the post. And I don't know from myself, I don't know if it's just wishful thinking, but I really hope that it's the latter and, she has found her groove, if you like. Life can give you something like completely unexpected and you're not sure how to deal with it, but it's sometimes what you needed, even if it didn't look like it at first. And if she's genuinely found passion in her life and being a disability advocate as well, I think that's a good thing. But, the comments were skeptical. But what do you guys make of this one? How do you feel about it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully, I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.